Okay, how's everybody doing? What I've got here is a really nice 454 Chevy Big Block that I picked up off a guy who was doing an LS conversion. And the motor came basically turnkey, hasn't had a lot of miles on it, but decided to do a little bit of a cosmetic refresh. So I'm going to do a few things here with you guys to give you a sense of some of the cosmetic work that can be done on a motor. A couple of things that I'll point out on this motor that I think are pretty important before I even consider installing it in one of our vehicles is as I went through and looked, and the prior owner had some work done on what he claimed was a set of oil leaks, and that included just a massive amount of red RTV along the china walls, on the back of the block and the front of the block. I'll show you the front in a moment, but also along both the exhaust crossovers and the coolant passages on the heads. And I of course couldn't have seen that before I pulled the intake manifold, and found just a ton of globbed up RTV. Not my preference. I know some people believe in using a lot of RTV around the coolant passages, clearly not along the intake passages. But what I want to do is take you through a bit of a cleaning exercise on that. What you can't see here is I have already taken a scraper and removed a lot of the heaviest RTV, taking some care not to drop anything into the lifter valley. I think what I'll end up doing is ensuring that I haven't dropped anything. There's a piece that I see. Haven't dropped anything into the lifter valley at all by masking it off eventually. But I thought what I'd do is take one of these coolant passages and give you a sense of how I would take that apart and clean it up. I shouldn't say take it apart, but clean it up. All I'm going to use today is a razor blade, just a straight edge razor, and a little bit of patience. So the key here will be, I don't want to mark up the aluminum, certainly softer than the steel razor blade, but I want to end up with a clean surface that I won't have to worry about leaking as I put together the motor to reinstall. So one of these examples of when you buy something, you got to know there's probably stuff inside of it that you wouldn't do, and in this case, quite a bit of cleanup I'm going to end up doing on this motor. All right, so let's get to work. All right, so here we are. Let me take you through the steps I'm going to take. I'm gonna take a regular straight razor blade like this and exercise a lot of caution while scraping the RTV, likely in a more downward position here. But before I do that, what you're going to see me do is take a set of shop towels. I'm not going to go with a full masking of the lifter valley, but I'm going to take a set of shop towels and give myself a little bit of a catch area down in the lifter valley before I start scraping what amounts to debris into the inside of the motor. So that's what you've got. This is the setup you'll see, and why don't I get to it? All right, so we've got a bit of the work done. And as you can see here, I'll try to give you a little closer view of it while I'm doing this. We've got most of the RTV scraped, but we've got a pretty good residue, which is, of course, what RTV does, is it gets into everything and sticks like its life depends on it. So what I'm going to do is I've got a pad, so an orange pad, so just mildly stiff, I guess you might say, and then a little bit of just regular old rubbing compound. So I've put just a touch of rubbing compound on there, and I'm gonna give this a few hits just to try to get some of the final pieces of RTV out of there. As you can see, I've got the lifter valley masked. If you look closely, you'll see that it actually caught a few oopses from me as I was working through this. So let me give this a few hits and we'll see how we come out. All right, well, so we've got, I wouldn't call it all the way clean. I think I'll hit this a few more times and then come back and show you guys, since you don't have to stay with me this whole time. But as you can see, it is taking a significant amount of the residue off of the head. And so let me give this a few more pops and I'll give you a final shot of it. So it's tough to appreciate the challenge of getting the last of this stuff off. It's pretty doggone tough. And so I'm gonna hit it a few more times here. Just to see if we can get some of that out of there. And then, you know, at some point with something like this, I'm likely on these channels, the coolant channels here, passages here, I am likely to smear just a touch of RTV across them. And what you actually and likely see here is that the RTV has squeezed itself into what's likely just very, very light pitting of some kind around that passage. And I won't call that a problem for reinstallation of a intake gasket. But if you compare, just to kind of give you a little bit of a before and after, there's a before. And again, this was after I had scraped some of the loosest RTV off of there. And that's where we are right now. So I'm going to likely declare victory on that one for the moment. Other options for this, probably could apply some heat. Gasoline is known to help break down RTV, particularly if it's not the black type, which is what I will be using when I put this motor back together. So thanks for joining. Just wanted to see if you could get a couple tips out of my my razor blade experience here with the motor. Take care.